Okay, Mathurnath, we are live.
Thank you. Namaskaram, everyone. Namaste. Wish you all a very happy new year. And this is my first session after the new year in 2023. So, on behalf of the Indian section of the Theosophical Society, I welcome you all for the study session for the day on the topic Law of Larger Consciousness. This will be done by Sister Vimal Balachandar. I am Mathurnath, the moderator for today, and joining me will be Shikhar Agnihotri on the IT side. So before we proceed with the introduction of the speaker, let us prepare ourselves for the universal invocation. Kindly close your eyes. Take some deep breath. Center yourself. Take some 2-3 deep breaths. And silently repeat after me. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with Thee know they are therefore one with every other. Just observe some moments of silence and silently repeat within yourself, may all who feel themselves as one with Thee know they are therefore one with every other. Gently return to your body with a big smile. And now let us go with the introduction of the speaker of the day, Mrs. Vimal Balachandar. So Vimal Balachandar became a member of the Adyar Lodge, Chennai in 2010, post the death of her mother by seeking the cause of her pain and suffering in her life. She had volunteered for a short time in the library and the bookshop at the Theosophical Society and attended several schools of wisdoms and conventions. On the professional side, she's an architect, and on the personal side, she's a homemaker where she's mother of 2 children. One is a lawyer, and the other is a special needs adult artist and craftsperson. Today, she relates to Krishnamurti's teaching and she contemplates the same. So, with that, she would be taking over on the topic of the larger consciousness, the law of larger consciousness. So, over to you, Vimal.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. For some reason, my video. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction, Mathur Nath. And well, when I was asked to do this talk, I'm like, I am not anywhere near a young Indian theosophist, having 2 young children who are equal, who are actually young Indians. But okay, since apparently nobody else wanted to do this part of the chapter, so I am doing the first part of this book, which is divided into 3 parts, and then the other 2 will be taken up by other hopefully young Indian theosophists. So this was a small compilation of lectures given by Besant in the Indian Convention in 1902. So remember, she became the president in 1907. So this was 5 years before that, while Olcott was still the president. And it happened between the 26th to 28th of December. Now, in those times, the way the lectures were given was similar to what we experienced this time, which is in the School of Wisdom, we had 3 days of School of Wisdom during the convention where the same theme was explored in 3 separate days. So similarly, the topic of the laws of higher life, which is the general topic, was explored in 3 separate days. So the first part of this topic is the larger consciousness. Now, actually, I don't see why young Indian theosophists are afraid of the larger consciousness, because we are suddenly in this era only talking about consciousness. If you look at YouTube videos and so, there's so much information on consciousness. So one should actually find this fascinating to think about consciousness. Now, so the first part that I'm going to deal with is larger consciousness, but the second is the law of duty, and then the law of sacrifice. So now, just 1 minute. Yeah. So every country has its own laws, which which are man-made, and every country devises what it sees as just punishment when its laws are broken. These laws are changeable and arbitrary, but we are discussing nature's laws. Nature's laws are not arbitrary. They don't change from country to country, nor do they change, nor do they ever change. Like a country's laws may change, but nature's laws don't change. What it states is, if such and such conditions are present, such and such results will happen. There is no punishment for an offense, but natural consequence. This is the natural law. So this is just another way of stating the law of karma. Now, in this, I'd just like to say, share a personal story, because all of these things become very interesting, especially karma, when you relate to things that happen in your life. For example, in my case, my mother-in-law suffered from Alzheimer's disease for the last 5 years of her life. And when I asked a fellow theosophist, and this is something very typically we do, we ask for why such things happen. My mother-in-law was a decent, good woman actually, and I was asking one theosophist in the TS Adyar here, and she said that this is because of buildup of hate. And I found that it must be true, because recently I found a video saying the same thing. Repetitive negative thinking, that is RNT, causes dementia and associated memory loss. So one sees different ways in which people get older. Some hold on to their grouses, experiences, hurts, and project anger, disappointment, and vindictiveness. Now, this is something I had seen in my mother-in-law. There was a lot of anger inside her towards her husband, towards her sister-in-laws, and old injuries and long back, how when people had hurt her, she held on to it. She used to share a lot with me, but she had been unable to forgive and move on. So most old people have such issues, but there are some who will forgive and forget and live in harmony with everybody. Now, each attitude has a consequence on our health. This is because of nature's laws, which act even when no outward occurrence is there. So all this is going on in the inside of my mother-in-law, and the effect was happening in her brain. Because of this negative thinking, the plaque formation was taking repetitive place in her neurons, and plaque formation is the cause of memory loss. So in a way, when we as now this is for the older young theosophists, that like we also need to be very careful that we don't do this buildup of negative thinking inside us, and we then worry about Alzheimer's and memory loss. When as you're growing older, we don't need to worry about it if we vibrate with a positive intent. So that is one interesting learning from this theory of karma, which of course you can apply in many various ways. Now, nature's laws can be broken, though man-made laws cannot be. Now, Besant stresses here on the knowledge of the laws. Like you just saw that having a knowledge of the law of karma helps you to take better decisions on what to do and what not to. Know the law, obey it, work with it, and it lifts you up with infinite strength and carries you to the goal that you desire to reach. This is from the book. So we got to obey it, which means that we need to, I would request someone to do the admission of people, please. Mathurnath or someone, because it's interfering with me. So no.
Yeah, I'm doing Vimalji, but it takes few seconds. So okay. Yeah, it will be like that because you are sharing the screen, so you need to be co-host. That's why.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
So know the law, obey it, work with it. It lifts you up. So now, what is it? Why do we have to obey it? I mean, more than obeying it, just we see the rationale of it. So now every action we know has an equal and opposite reaction, but how important it is to also think about every thought we develop having an equal and opposite reactory thought. So here, let's go on to the next. Besant then describes 3 conditions in which the consciousness of the same person has different levels of intelligence. So there is this whole couple of pages where she goes into the description of a person who's a peasant woman, a farmer woman, who in her waking consciousness was a dull and stupid person. But in trance, that is in when she was hypnotized, her consciousness showed more intelligence and was aware of the lower state of consciousness, and referred to harshly to that woman, that is herself, as that creature. In an even deeper trance or sleep, the consciousness was dignified, sober, and looked down upon the two lower states. The lower states were not aware of the higher ones, while the higher ones were aware of the lower, but not of those higher than its. Now, this is very interesting because I've had similar experiences. In my waking moment, I felt sometimes very slow, not sharp, not quick. So many things go out of my memory, things which I have read, words which I have read, and it will not come to me at the moment I wanted. But I have noticed sometimes when sort of having some kind of lucid dreaming, when I'm able to, remember my dreams, that time, and my mind is so sharp, and I'm far more cleverer in my dream state than I'm in my real physical state. So I don't know whether you all have ever had these experiences, but this is Besant's study that the consciousness is working through various agencies. So when the consciousness is working through this peasant woman's actual body, it is a dull state, it is a slow state, and it has got contempt for its own self. So that is what she observed. Now Besant goes on to describe the two kinds of mind, one that is genius and another that is a religious one. In the case of the genius, the person may be eccentric, may be oversensitive. His brain produces more value for mankind. On the other hand, the religious mind may develop neurotic self-deceiving images and experiences, but at the same time is harmless to mankind and shows a higher path of being. She says that with careful eating, sleeping, and training habits, the mind can be brought to a high level of sensitivity. And one should be careful with such a mind, just as one is careful with the taut wires of a guitar, which will produce good sound but is liable to snap. But the higher consciousness reveals itself to such a sensitive brain. The tension of the nervous state is necessary for the showing of the higher life and consciousness. This is stated in this book. So basically, what she's trying to say is that it may be necessary for one to be in an alert state, but at the same time, if one puts too much pressure on that alert state by not sleeping enough or not eating enough, not getting enough rest, one might go to the other side of lunacy or madness, and one may not be able to keep it all together. So it is that not only do we have to be sharp, alert, but we also have to be balanced in our, how we take care of ourselves. So this is what is there in this. Now, keeping one's mind alert, aware, unbiased, non-vindictive, without the self or choiceless awareness makes the necessary space for the higher to enter the lower. Now, this is something which I think if you read Krishnamurti, you would realize that very often he says that if your mind is always chattering, where is the space for the higher to come? So unless one comes, slows down the chattering mind and comes to a state of awareness, then only that higher consciousness can actually, or whatever is that higher, can we be aware of that higher. So a few years ago, I think President Tim Boyd had given a lecture, which may be online, in which she talked a lot about how to experiment with quiet. So to not do anything, to just see how life is going, and not just keep on reading, studying and everything, but just be aware of how we are processing or experiencing life. When the mind was made tranquil and quiet, when desire was allowed to trouble its, when no desire was allowed to trouble its serenity, as a lake in perfect calm. On that mind at peace was on that mind at peace was thrown the reflection of the self. The man saw in the tranquility of the mind and the silence of the senses the majesty, the glory of the self. That is the Eastern way. Again, this is quoted from the book. Now, in the we know this, and I don't think there's any need for us to clarify this. Let's just go ahead. In the Indian tradition, the mind is considered the sixth sense, along with the five senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and the sense of touch. What Besant says here is that making the brain sensitive to all that goes around, that is sharpening the brain, making one sensitive to the coarser energies around one, and hence a religious makes one sensitive to the coarser energies around one. So when one is when the brain is sensitive to all that which is going around us, and one is sharpening the brain, this makes us sensitive to the coarser energies which are there around us. Hence, a religious person finds it hard to deal with coarser energies. Besant describes here how the various upadhis are shaped by higher consciousness. She says, for the higher consciousness to really express itself, one who retires to a forest, stills his body, stills his senses and feelings, stills his mind, can naturally experience that higher consciousness inside of him. The mind is also described as a lake whose surface, if disturbed, one can't see the bottom of. But if the mind is calm, the bottom is clearly visible. So now, like, we are in a phase in humanity where a lot of consciousness studies is going on, like I started with saying. So this consciousness can be aware of any part of our sevenfold body. It can be aware just of our lower mind, which we're always aware of. It can be aware of our emotions. It can be just aware of our physical body. At different times, mostly the consciousness moves from the bottom four to the, in this bottom four, most of the time our consciousness stays. When does it move to the higher form? When we are looking for universal truths. What is true for me is true for you, it's true for everybody. Those kinds of truths we are looking for. We are looking for what is the right thing, not just for me, but for everybody. We are looking for that pure state or that pure sense of love. That emotion, it may be an emotion in the lower plane, but that state which is called love, when we are looking at those, that's when our consciousness or our awareness is at are in the higher triad, in the upper three. So Atma, Buddhi, Manasa. And as a person in philosophy or in theosophy or in any spiritual life, I mean, slowly you find your peace and tranquility is in being in these higher realms. The more you are in this, the more you enjoy yourself. In a way, when you come to these meetings, sometimes you may not even hear the words of the meetings, because it just being in the presence of a bunch of like-minded individuals who also don't see in any value in wasting their Sunday on many other things, and prefer this silence of listening to somebody, very calming, very soul enriching. That itself brings a sense of sort of going to a higher level of consciousness. So we're always doing these things. Sometimes we are taking walks somewhere in quiet places. Again, we touch those higher states of consciousness, and we don't know this because mankind has ways of brutalizing states whenever we are not doing anything. Like they will say there's he's blank, he's not got any thought, he's feeling dull, he's feeling listless. We put so many unnecessary adjectives to that state, which the topic of the president's speech, which was experiment with quiet. When we experiment with quiet, instead of actually that being called a good thing, there are so many other connotations given to that kind of a state, whereas it can be extremely enriching. It's not really necessary to grasp whatever is said in this lecture intellectually. If you just get the feel of it, it's more than sufficient, and that is where you are touching your higher ways, like higher abilities. So let's go on. Besant lastly describes how, without taking to extremes, with adequate food, rest, and vairagya or dispassion, one manifests the higher consciousness to oneself. One-pointed devotion to the Supreme, a clear, well-balanced, intelligent development of the intellect and emotions. This is the road we must tread. If the higher consciousness is to be manifested on earth, we must be pure in life, compassionate and tender. We must learn to see the self in everyone around us, in the ugly as well as in the beautiful, in the low as well as in the high, in the plant as well as in the deva. So, okay, let's continue. My reflections on this book. So, in my studies of Krishnamurti, I learned that one must not indulge in separating ourselves into higher or lower, conscious or subconscious, or as the other aspect of conscience, but to see the whole movement of thought, to see how we are constantly trying to establish a certain ideal way of being and letting that self-development go and replace it. And we have to let that self-development go, that targeted self-development go, and replace it with choiceless awareness. This is my studies of Krishnamurti. And there I find it contradicts what we just read from Besant, like when she says that one must have this clear, balanced, intelligent development of the intellect and emotions. That is the road to tread. When she says there is a road, and when then Krishnamurti says truth is a pathless land. Now both are theosophists, and whom do we follow and what do we follow? So I think each person has their own track. Even if you are in the society, you have your own track. And my understanding is that this kind of focusing on self-development and taking one can give you something in the lower realm, like you can pass exams, you can get a job, you can achieve things. But in this higher realm, there cannot be that kind of self-development which is targeted. So there I more in an alignment with Krishnamurti. So he says that one must be aware of everything and not follow anything. In that silence, the highest reveals itself. But there is no me that it reveals itself to. It just is. So, if you want to have an experience of this highest revealing itself, it's good to read the commentaries of Living by Krishnamurti. So in that you will see that he will be describing just the nature, and it will be like the way he'll describe nature is that it's almost like all of it is so beautifully connected. So the mountain is connected to the trees, to connected to the birds, connected to the water, and all of it is coming together. And you can sense that his description itself is coming from a higher space. Now, by being aware that we lose the hold that personality has, by being aware, we lose the hold that the personality has on us. We dissolve our conflicts, our struggles, we resolve problems as soon as they appear. Live in a life of beauty and peace, of goodwill and kindness, of brotherliness to all. So this I have experimented this with myself, that when I'm aware, I am, I'm able to solve conflicts the moment they come. I'm able to see my competitiveness. I'm able to see my comparative way of thinking. I'm able to see my fear. I'm able to see my, my worry, and I'm able to see all of that. And like earlier when I was a student of theosophy, I used to talk a lot about sevenfold body, blah, blah, all of that. I used to keep on telling people because I used to feel, why don't people talk about all these things? And I know there was one point like people said, hey, you seem to be going a bit of a psycho talking about all this. But I realized that I wanted everybody else to go in my path. I wanted people to understand that I was taking a good track. But, with Krishnamurti and with this understanding, and it's been many years since all that happened, I now begun to realize that everyone's got their own path. And even if you are, learning all these things in theosophy, there is still so much, that is still going on inside. Even if you know that jealousy is wrong, you can still be jealous. So it doesn't mean that knowing that something is right makes you right automatically. So for me, awareness is a better way to this higher level of consciousness. Kay says that there can be no compassion if we are capable of being hurt. If one thinks of this statement, now just think, there is no compassion if we are capable of being hurt. I cannot be compassionate to you if I have any capacity inside me of being hurt. This is a fantastic thing to think about it. Because when do we get hurt? We get hurt when we build an image of who we are. That image is what is getting hurt. Now, if we stop building those images, if we are completely free, we are hurt free. And at that moment, when there is no image of ourselves, we see another person, we see their problems, we feel the kindness, we see the care, we care for them. If we can, we do something. If we can't, we say kind words. But that is true compassion. There is no sense in that how I am being nice to this person. Now, is it possible that he will turn it around and hurt me? Sometimes it happens when you're, they say that there was one fantastic thing which once my father said, that his friends once said to him, कि अच्छा वो इंसान मेरा बुरा करना चाहता है, क्यों? मैंने तो उसका कभी अच्छा किया ही नहीं. Means what? कि जिसका अच्छा हम करते हैं वही हमारा बुरा चाहता है. ये thinking होती है. That sometimes it happens. We are very kind to say someone working for us, and then we become over aware of how that person is thinking about us, how that person is treating us. We become oversensitive, overthinking. Why? Where is your compassion? You are being kind to the person, another person, does not mean that that person has to behave in a certain way with you. Your kindness is an end in itself, because it's a good way to be, that's all. So Kay says that defining of ideals is a way of self-destruction. As when we aspire for something higher, we build images of ourselves negatively, thus hurting ourselves. We say that he says that let's look at all the jealousies, competitiveness, comparisons, and be aware that then choose the path that gives us beauty and joy. Each person has to find that light in himself, which is pure and without any thought, which is love. It can never come from the outside. So this again, this whole thing is the whole process. When you start thinking about all this, it's not like that you suddenly give up and, which is often you'll hear Kay say that doesn't mean that you can do anything you want when you are not got any ideals. It's not like that at all. It's that when you understand that when you set ideals, you are doing some kind of severe self, criticism of yourself. You're saying, I'm this and I need to be there. So that itself is, you're creating a division between what you are and what you want to be. And then anything that comes in the path of what you want to be, you become violent and you say, this person is not helping me in my self-development. Whereas that is because you've created an image of something nobler than us, higher than us. It's not like that. It doesn't mean that we don't have to have images of something nobler and higher than us. But that nobler and higher person has to only develop love for that person. We can also see that that person has got enormous, beautiful qualities. Then we feel, okay, he can be like this. I'll also try to. So it is not like you set him up as an ideal, but it's like admiring a very beautiful flower. I mean, I don't know, many of our social media has shared a lot of lotus pictures which have bloomed during the convention, and what extraordinary beauty. I mean, you can stop everything and just sit with that beauty. So that, there's nothing wrong in the admiration of beauty in another person. There's absolutely nothing. It is so inspiring. It's like admiring the sun. But in that thing, it doesn't mean you set yourself an ideal that this person is like this, now I have to reach there. If you set that type of ideal, that's where the self-destruction, the comparison, the competitiveness, all that comes in. So this is where Kay comes. Now, this whole topic, which is the consciousness, the higher consciousness, I mean, there is a lot of research going on. I don't know whether I have enough time, but I'll just quickly do this. Just let me know if I'm getting too late. I want to give at least 15 minutes for discussion. So the thing is, we are going through, some people say we've already started the Aquarian age. What I heard is it's going to start in 2029, but there are different things. Some people say started in 21, but whatever it is, we are going through a cusp place where we are moving from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. Now, we all know in theosophy that all our planets, planetary systems, and all the stars have some effect on Earth. And one thing which is that that is something we know that the axis of the earth also does a rotational cycle. Not a rotational, it makes a circle. Like if you see here, this is the axis here, and it is making a circle. This circle, this cycle is called the precessional cycle, and it takes 25,920 years for this cycle to move. And it actually is very interesting because there is a comparison between the yuga system of Indian philosophy and this precessional cycle. But we can do that. We can discuss that later if there is time. Now, if you look at it, this Aquarian age is an age where consciousness sort of more and more people are talking about consciousness. More and more people are doing consciousness studies. So if you just type consciousness in YouTube, you will find so many webcasts, podcasts, and all kinds of things, that people discussing consciousness everywhere. So this is something very interesting, and I think this is not that we people discuss a lot of theory, but consciousness is something which is now being discussed all over the world, whether it is scientists or non-scientists. In this context, I would suggest, and I've also just started reading this book. It's called A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sandberg. And this person has had, experiences in the Kamaloka, and he's met people, and he's had such insights about what the physical life is all about, and what that higher realms are all about. It's extremely interesting for people to read such literature. And I would also suggest, when you do consciousness studies, go wider and do more studies on these things. A lot of people are doing this. In the next talk, Besant will be teaching us about what is our duty and or dharma, and what is the path of following the higher law. And in the final talk, she will explain how sacrifice is also a law of the universe. And as it came into being, the whole universe came into being when the divine sacrificed itself. Now, this booklet, and as every booklet of the society that it publishes, makes us go research on all these deep topics, and we look for what is the truth, and we pledge our devotion to finding truths, and make ourselves as better a person today, and in this moment, and always, as possible. So that is the ultimate aim of any kind of study. So I hope that this talk helps me become a better person, helps you who's listening to. So thank you so much, and thanks for patient listening, and we open up for discussions. So please.
Hey, that was a brilliant one. Law of larger consciousness, because one line can be spoken about it and no lines can be spoken about it. It is in that gamut of spectrum of things with which we can talk about the law of consciousness. It just reminds me of one line in Sanskrit about Sadashiva Brahmendra, who had done a lot of work in this regards. So there is one song where he has written about Sarvam Brahma Mayam Yere, Kim Pathaniyam, Kim Apathaniyam, Kim Vachaniyam, Kim Avachaniyam, Sarvam Brahma Mayam. That's what he writes. In that last line, he writes Sarvatra Sada Hamsa Dhyanam Kartavyam, not Kartavyam. Kartavyam means the one which leaves you out of the bondage of karma. Kartavyam ho bhukti and mukti nidanam, which means that the spectrum of just looking at things as they are in very deep observation and alertness is what is termed out to be a highest consciousness, and that is what we call as the state of mukti. So he had spoken about it. Since you have another 5 minutes, can you take us through that law of cycles, which you said from the Aquarian to the Piscean age? Can it be spoken in 5 minutes if possible for the benefit of all? Or you would like to have a 10 minute?
No,
it's 11:05 now.
I'll have to, 1 second. I can talk about it, but I'll have to open up another PDF for that.
Okay.
I don't know whether I can do that.
Sure.
I am not able to do that right now because I have to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm not able to do that.
Okay.
Basically, this is something, I mean, everyone knows. We are getting into the Aquarian age, but I don't know the details of what the Aquarian age is. But I think it is pushing you to higher spirituality. Basically, maybe somebody else knows. Shindeji can tell us maybe. Mr. Hemant
Yeah.
wants to say something.
Yes, I was coming to him next. Dr. Hemant?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I am retired professor of psychology from Jodhpur University, Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Honorable Speaker Vimal Balchandran has precisely and exactly and elaborately discussed and interpreted all the aspects according to the views of Theosophy and particularly J. Krishnamurti. I want to make one observation or inform of a question. With respect to our self-development, we have developed self-disclosure as well as self-concept or self-esteem. This self-direction, how it will help in our spirituality or at the conscious or subconscious level. And in Theosophy, apart from the psychoanalytic concept, conscious, pre-conscious and unconscious, there are subconscious or superconscious or supraconscious also. So let me know how we can develop our negative emotions into our positive emotions as regarding phobia or anxiety or depression. Honorable Speaker discuss something. So let me know in a brief. Thank you very much.
Could you,
Okay, sir.
Athurnath, do you think
Okay,
you could reword that the question? I'm not able to very clearly.
So you
grasp.
have, if I understand Mr. Hemant, correct?
Self-development regarding our self-esteem or self-concept, how can we transform our negative emotions into the positive emotions like happiness, bliss at our subconscious or conscious level? Okay.
So negative emotions into positive
Yes, sir.
emotions at
How
our
can-
conscious or subconscious level.
Right, right.
So
Yes.
I'm sure there is no blanket answer to that. It depends on what are the negative emotions. Now, for example, if my negative emotions, I hate somebody. Now, how am I going to love that person? Now, how is love going to develop? So unless, of course, there is systematically one start looking at the good of that person, the good that that person has done,
Mhm.
you cannot develop love. Even then, there is memory. That person did something very bad to me. Now I am reacting from a state of memory. Now I say that, okay, that person had some reason to do something bad to me. That person hated me at that time, but do I need to hate that person? So it's a process of cognitive sort of therapy
Right.
that one goes through to develop, change negativity to positivity. So it's a whole process. There's no sudden thing. So I don't see that. So if it's one emotion of hatred, there's an entire process that is happening. And why do you think we take so many births? We take so many births only for this development because it takes even for one emotion to properly change from negative to positive takes a lifetime. It is not
Thank
easy.
you, sir.
I can do with one person, I can stop hating. Next person, I will start hating for some other reason.
But
So-
madam, it is related to our learning as well as reflections in terms of memory as well as cognitive thinking. Even in our imagination, we may have positive emotions regarding other persons or regarding ourselves. So our self-esteem or self-concept depends upon the environment, the people, as you connected entire universe like mountains, trees, and so natural environment as well as our socio-cultural environment.
Not
They can
just that, sir.
interact. Yes, sir.
You
Right.
must also have a perfect knowledge that you are that Atma. You deserve love because you are love. You must
Right.
love yourself.
Right.
Unless you love yourself, and self-love is the beginning of spirituality.
Right, sir.
There is no hatred in spirituality for oneself. Even when one is developing oneself, it is not because I hate some aspect of me. I'm developing myself to become even more beautiful. I'm already beautiful. I'm aware that I'm beautiful. Because I'm aware that I am loved and I am loved. If I am aware that I am loved, there is no problem in that. But most people are not aware of that. They define themselves in their education, their background, their history. Do they ever say, I am loved? Who says that? And if anybody says that, something's off. That's what people will say. It starts, oh, this is a very airy fairy type of person, defines herself as love. It's not like that. Because we have to.
Thank you, madam. Okay.
Yeah, we have to think from that viewpoint that love is the
I see.
highest vibration. It's not a small thing. Shinde ji?
Thank you, madam. Okay.
I think whatever Professor Sharma pointed out, I must congratulate Vimalji for your nice, comprehensive expression and exploration of these higher laws. Everybody should really think deeply on these higher laws. What are higher laws after all? Higher laws are the impressions of the divine mind on the matter. That is what the Mahatma letter says. Higher laws are the impressions of the divine mind on the matter.
Matter.
Whatever matter we have, there are impressions of the higher laws. That means that potentiality is within us, within the matter. We have to explore it. So, which are those laws of higher life having impressions of the higher mind on our matter are the law of harmony, that is law of karma, law of necessity, that is law of reincarnation, and law of evolution. All these are necessary for taking a step forward towards our human destiny. So when we study these laws of higher life, as Professor pointed out, there are opposing forces, no doubt, but these opposing forces are very nicely symbolized in the Japanese and Chinese philosophy, yin and yang. So these yin and yang, higher life, opposing forces, they need to be balanced. If you study the yin and yang, then as Professor has asked how to bring the opposite forces in a balance, positive and negative. So you better think of this yin and yang. These are the opposite forces, and dots of opposing colors symbolize neither absolute but contains. In negativity there is some positivity, in positivity there is some negativity, which needs to be explored by individual. This is the law of higher life we have to understand, because our higher nature has to be expressed to this matter, and we have to balance these higher forces. That is what I think, and I congratulate Vimalji and thank Mathurnath for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shinde ji is the original teacher.
Yeah, yes.
A lot of learning from Shinde ji. So now there's just one question.
Yes, from
that,
Zina.
is feeling hurt a result of our ego, a misinterpretation of ourselves? So Zina, like, yes, obviously from whatever we've just discussed, that when we feel hurt, our image of who we are is hurt, and that is our ego. Ego is built the moment this ego is our image. We have built that image of ourselves. We are this, I am that, I have done this, I have done that, I did that time, and then how she's behaving now or he's behaving now. Ego is all that. So that is a sort of a structure which we have built of who we are. And when that image is hurt, that is definitely because of our building our ego. A misinterpretation of ourselves. Yes, because if you see that ourself is that divine spark, and it is not this physical body, this human identity, because we do not ever think of ourselves all the time as that higher spark. The moment we think of ourselves as that higher spark, our problems resolve. Actually, all the time, if we keep thinking that okay, something happened, somebody said something nasty to me, somebody was rude to me, somebody treated me badly, and they didn't realize who I was. I am the highest spark. There's a
I always would say, Zina, you have to read Theosophy, because there the ego has a very different expression. We don't call ego as the person who is having a big brains. We call ego as a person who's a very divine element. So if you have to look at it from that side or that part of the consciousness, you don't even have to feel hurt about it.
Anybody else wants to?
Anybody wants to share or any more questions?
Actually, I think Vimal got it. That we have an image of ourselves as being kind, compassionate, whatever. But all that also is a part of the divine spark within us. And then when we are hurt by another, we feel that that goodness in us has been tread upon. So it's also good to have ego and self-respect and a good feeling about who we really are is a good thing, is it not?
It reminds me of Blavatsky's one of the writings where she says even being vulnerable is good to one extent, though psychologically psychiatrists don't accept that. But being vulnerable is good to some extent because it fosters receptivity from the higher spirits. They say this. So if I have to relate to what you say,
think about
yeah.
this aspect of vulnerability, just one point.
Yeah.
You know, this higher self, which has got so many great qualities, it takes birth in human form. Don't you think at that moment it is showing its vulnerability? Because it knows that this form can be conditioned and go in any direction. You know, we don't know what it's going to do. The higher thing has no control over this lower form. So it shows vulnerability. That is why vulnerability is actually a sign of a person who's vulnerable. Okay, but at the same time, one shouldn't be vulnerable in the sense of ego, this thing called getting hurt. There is a difference between one vulnerability and another. One
Yes.
is risk taking. You take risk. Okay, I'm saying something which may not be agreeable to everybody. That is vulnerability. Okay.
So in the life of our hardship, you have a whole world to defeat is actually from this perspective as well. Dr. Hemant, you have something to say. You raised your hand.
You're mute, sir.
I have unmuted you. Yeah.
I want to add something.
Yes, Shinde sir.
Because when we study these higher lives, we must also know what instinct we have. And those instincts are essential. As the question was asked about the ego, ego is essential for the self-existence. We are self-consciousness, but self-existence, self as separation, awareness, that ego is essential for survival. So that kind of instinct we have with us. But ego is the dividing instinct. In the same manner, sex is also an instinct we have inherited. This sex is a uniting instinct. So when ego is dividing instinct, sex is uniting instinct, and both these instincts are malignant. See, they don't stop what we say multiplying. So we have to be very aware of these two instincts which we have in our matter, ego and sex. And love is that uniting instinct which is embracing all in one. So these higher laws, when we study, these instincts also need to be studied because we are inherited them. That is what I want to add in this, just for discussion purpose. Thank you.
Sure.
Tina, I think you said something which we didn't respond to. What were you saying? And I'm not sure we responded to it the second time.
That when we look into ourselves and we have studied and we have tried to understand that we are a spark of divinity and therefore we are good, compassionate, and all things that is divine, then we have that, we are trying to hold that in our heart, that this is what I am, this is what I have inherited through my birth. And then that becomes a part of the ego. So when somebody is insulting or hurts you, are you wrong
No,
in
no.
feeling
Then,
hurt?
no. That thing cannot become part of the ego, because that thing has no definition. It is when you say love, when you're saying I am part of the divine, that we still don't know who, then what that divine is, or what is that. We don't know. We say we only experience a sense of love. When you say I am a compassionate human, I am a kind human being, I am this, I am that, that's ego building. That is not what we are talking about here is totally different. See, there's this fine line between being a compassionate person and knowing you are compassionate. When you are a compassionate person, you are. There you are not saying I am a compassionate person. You do compassion. Okay. For example, you don't think twice about any small good thing that you do, because you just do it. It's a good thing. You get up in the morning, brush your teeth. You don't think twice about why should I brush my teeth. Do it because it's a good thing. So compassion or any good thing, any kindness that you do, if you start thinking that I do this kind good thing, then it's image building, then it's ego building, and then it's bad. Don't do anything to build an image or concretize an image of yours. If you do that, you're in trouble, because you're going to get hurt. You do it, no problem. You will do it, and I will also do it. And we both will get hurt. That's all.
Just maybe one thing. Good morning, Sinaji. Maybe when we get hurt, if that time, if we start an inquiry, who is getting hurt in me? Maybe that inquiry will lead us to the core of the matter, that who is this getting hurt? Whether is it really me, as Vimalji is saying, or is it the image that I have made about myself? It's getting hurt. So and that is a self-inquiry. I mean, nobody can do on anybody's behalf. We have to do for ourselves. And the same actually will apply when somebody praises us. Like, oh, you are such a good person, and we get approval of million people. We have so many followers on Facebook and this and that. So at that time, that is also an opportunity for inquiry, that who is feeling elated, who is feeling happy with this approval. So both the situations are actually a reminder that just like who am I, we can also inquire who is getting hurt in me, maybe. Just a thought.
Yeah, and the ultimatum of it would only be that you were just expressing your life, with just being an expression of your divine self. And if it is being hurt, like what Shinde Saab said, that is the consequence. One of the consequences could be because of being hurt, but that's part of the process. But there is nothing called as hurt.
One thing I can say is, when one is doing something good in this world, right? One can say that there's something very little I can do for making this world a better place, and I'm doing it. Now, there are numerous things in this world that needs to be done. You know, there are people to be fed, there are people who are homeless. You know, there's some post about, there's so many posts, you see Better India posts, it'll be full of lots of Indians doing very nice things for Indians. So there's this one Delhi person who is providing homes for these half-cut tar tins, which are homes for street dogs. And he says, come and take. If you want to come and take, I am providing a home, you take it. So the winter is biting right now in Delhi, and he's thought of the street dogs. It's a very kind thing. Okay. And I would also say, if I had an independent house and I was able to keep, would I do it? No, the thing is, there are numerous scope for kindness in this world. We all can do one small bit. It might be 1/1,000,000th that is required. But when we do it, let's just do it and not think that there's compassion or there is kindness or anything. Just say that it was my turn. It's like the kitty party has come to me. It's my turn to host Khana. So I'm doing it. Don't say anything more than that to yourself, because the amount of strife today in the world, in the human world, the animals are equally, thanks to the human, the way we treat our chicken and all that, our hens and our zoos. So we only thing, sometimes I see birds, they are free, but even they are put in cage. Actually, what is free are the mosquitoes. They are still happily roaming around. But if you think about it, so there's so little that we can do. That if we give ourselves credit for that little bit, I'm telling you, that's the most egoistic thing we can do. Because there's nothing, we're just doing nothing. And we have to keep telling ourselves that. It's hard, but we need to keep telling ourselves in the large scheme of things, literally very little each of us is really doing for humanity or for anybody.
We have last 4 minutes, so any more questions? Anything, any other insights? I'm very happy that we have gone into such level of intensities and very high broader perspectives and discussions. It's nice to see this. And thanks for the
You
topic.
have to be grateful, you know, always grateful.
Yeah,
Even the smallest good thing another person does for us, be grateful. That's where it all starts, that gratefulness.
right.
Then that turn comes. From the ego way of thinking, we start seeing another's good qualities. When focusing only on ourselves, then we can't, then we'll be hurt. But when we are grateful, na, that takes that focus away. And then you see the person who's grateful is has got less capacity for hurt. You know, these are all tricks. These are wisdom tricks you can take.
That's true.
We'll close.
Okay. So if there's no thing, we'll close 3 minutes earlier. So let's do a Thanksgiving prayer. Please close your eyes. Take some deep breaths and center yourself. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. Hope you have a wonderful week ahead and nice contemplative days. And may you read more and more about Theosophy and start concretizing them in the practical lives. And let's spread the teachings together, work together.
Thank you, Mathurnath. We need your talk also soon again.
Sure, sir. Sure. I'm going to give one very soon.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mathurnath.
Thank you. Thank you, Vimalji. Thank you, Mathurnath.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shikhar.
Thank you, everyone. See you next
Bye.
Sunday, same time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and
Bye.
okay. Bye.
Thank
And
you,
the-
everybody. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Gratitude.
Thank you, Sister Jasmine.
Thank you. brother.
Okay. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao.